Okay, I'm here with a dear friend of mine, and we've been knowing each other probably since 75, 76. And I told y'all that I would bring y'all some special people. And I consider this guy a special guy and a dear friend. Introduce yourself, man.
Thank you. Hello out there. My name is Charles Williams. Just a guy born, raised, and made in Stop 6, Texas. Had the awesome blessing to come home to serve and work here in Fort Worth, and that's who I am. Known this great man. We even sung in the same choir together back in the day. So just happy to be here.
So you are CEO of Baylor All Saints. Did I say that right?
Yeah. Formerly, saying, and you did say it right. In my role, I serve as the president for Baylor All Saints, as well as the president for Baylor Scout and White's DFW Western Region.
Okay. So how many facilities do you oversee?
So when we look at the responsibility of the role includes the 3 acute care facilities that we wholly own, the hospital in Irving, Texas, Grapevine, and here in Fort Worth. In addition to all of our joint venture partners and our managed facilities of 5 emergency hospitals in the region and 5 specialty hospitals that we have, and numerous ambulatory sites of just delivering care to those who find themselves in need of health care.
Mm-hmm. Now, for my viewers, I want you to tell them the neighborhood that you grew up in.
Well, I grew up in Stop 6, the neighborhood known as Stop 6, an amazing place, the historic neighborhood. As I often share, people ask me where am I from, I say I'm from Stop 6, Texas, and a place that I love on Anderson Street.
So you grew up in Stop 6, and you are the president and overseer of over 10 Baylor healthcare facilities.
Wow. Yeah. I'm blessed to be God's servant. Blessed to do the things that He allows me to dream, He allows me to serve. And yet, that is correct, sir.
Mm-hmm. What would you say to a kid from Stop 6 that's watching you right now?
First and foremost, what I would say to a kid or anyone else is know that no matter your situation, it does not determine your destination and the things that you are capable of. If you first, and this is just the way I believe, trust God. Know that every person in your life, family, friends, or those who quote unquote consider themselves enemies, every person matters, and every person can teach you something that can bless your journey.
And you were talking earlier, we were having a conversation about talent versus work ethic.
Oh man.
Talk a little bit about that. I thought that was pretty important for the viewers to hear.
Yeah. Well, what I was saying, and so often when we're going through things, be it math, science, reading, whatever the subject in school or whatever you're doing, it's, am I smart or am I not smart? But to me, smart only gets you so far. Work ethic is truly what makes the difference. I don't even believe in telling young people, oh, well, you're smart or you're not smart. I said, no, you worked hard. because that's what's going to get you there. That's what's going to make the difference, because we're all going to have failures. We're all going to find something that we don't do well. We're all have a level of incompetence, of unknowing. But if you're willing to work hard and apply yourself, I think you can do it. I truly believe that you can get anything done, because one, you started with the good Lord. And two, you applied yourself and you allowed him to use you for whatever his purpose for you is.
That's good stuff. When did you have any inkling or any thought of you being where you are today? When did you begin to see it?
Honestly, being where I am today, I didn't see this position of being a president up until around 2005. My entire life, I knew I wanted to be in healthcare, but unfortunately, you can't dream about what you don't know about. Many of us, when we hear about healthcare, we think of doctor and nurse.
Mm-hmm.
So I even have pictures from as early as 5 years old with the stethoscope, saying I want to be a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
And fortunately, there was a football coach at Dunbar High School,
mm-hmm.
Chris Dipple, who handed me a pamphlet for the Health Profession Outreach Project.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, you need to go to this. And I spent 2 weeks in Denton learning about the different health professions. And that's when I decided and learned I wanted to be an occupational therapist. And that was my first master's degree.
Mm-hmm. How old were you then?
I was 17.
Okay.
And I was finishing up my junior year. We had just finished up the junior season at Dunbar. And he handed me that, and so I applied, and I went up there and learned. But of course, a lot of it in just achieving and doing things, another person that I'll tell you was somebody that really invested in me a lot of time in just advice. And that was Coach Starr.
Okay.
And Coach Starr would let me do certain stuff. He put me just doing stuff in his class, and I'm like, why does he trust me so much? And I would make sure I never abuse that trust.
Yes, sir.
So that's really when it started.
Mm-hmm. So you said Coach Starr. Now, a lot of people don't know who Coach Starr is.
Coach Cleveland Starr.
Right.
He was a science teacher, football assistant coach, and the head baseball coach. I actually got a chance to see him a few weeks ago, and I just lit up when I saw him. But, I was blessed, with a great father.
Mm-hmm.
But at school, he was like a dad, because he had no problem grabbing me if I did get out of and say, boy, you know better than that.
Right.
You're better than that. And I really appreciate it for it. I appreciate it for it.
Mm-hmm. And it was okay back then for a coach to grab a student.
Oh yeah. I'm glad he grabbed me. I'm because who knows where I'd be, but no, man. I mean, there were so many people along the way, man, that believed. Because I didn't always believe in myself. I'm not going to sit here and say that.
Mm-hmm.
There were times I felt like, I looked around, because your current situation, sometimes isn't good.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like, okay, how do I not get out, but how do I get better? How do I get in a better situation? And that's why I said, no matter who's in your life, enemy, friend, listen to them, because that person may hold the key to your future through information, access, you name it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What does growing up in Stop 6 mean to you?
It means a lot. To me, growing up in Stop 6 teaches you a level of grit that you can't buy. It teaches you a level of determination, work ethic that no one can teach you. They can't give you a book and tell you how to go get it. They can't tell you about, hey, I know it's tough, I know it's hard, but it'll be all right. No, you lived it. And that's really why I think people coming out of communities such as Stop Six that have such a strong heritage, because while we may not be economically wealthy, we are wealthy in faith, we're wealthy in spirit. And I truly believe those things take you a lot further than money when times get hard, when the work hours get long, when the study sessions get to the point where you're studying for 24 hours straight for that exam to get to that place. You know, we've all heard the saying that you work like no one else, so one day you can live like no one else.
Right.
And I believe many of my blessings come from the work ethic and the trials or the tribulations that I experienced living and growing up in Stop Six. You know, one of my favorite verses is the 23rd number of the Psalms. The 23rd number of the Psalms has 6 verses. You know the one that says, the Lord is my shepherd.
Right.
Well, that 4th verse says, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. See, the beauty of it is a valley is a low place between 2 hills. And by the sheer definition and the composition of a valley and a hill, if you keep walking, you'll get back to the hill. The problem is so many of us, when we go through the valley moment, is we miss the fertilization that's in the valley. Right. So that when we get back to the hill, follow where I'm going, we're not stronger, we're not better. So if we find ourselves in that situation, you know, of living a little bit tougher life than maybe the kid across the street, ask yourself, what's the benefit of that life experience? Is my endurance a little bit better? Is my ability to deal with stress a little bit stronger? So that when I find myself in corporate America or in college, keep pushing. Because if you keep pushing, you're going to outlast your competition. Because reality is, it's all competition.
Yeah.
You're always competing. And that's what I learned.
Now, you are the first. I want to speak into the camera a little bit when I say this. You are the first Black CEO of Baylor, Scott, and White. Did I say that correctly?
Yeah. So, and like I said, CEO, we refer to him as president. So
okay,
and that's fine. No. And we only do it because as Baylor, Scott, and White, we are the largest health system in the state of Texas. And so we have a CEO of the company, and then we have all our hospitals. But I in 21, when I became the president in Waco, the one that's on I-35, I became the first president of Black president Baylor, Scott, and White. When I came here to Fort Worth as the regional president, I became the first ever president here at All Saints, but also the first ever regional president within Baylor, Scott, and White. And it's an honor. But what matters most to me is not being the first. I want to ensure that I serve in a way and I lead in a way and I do what the Lord asked me to do, and I produce in a way that I can hopefully say I'm not the last.
Yes, sir.
I just want to make sure I'm not the last. I want some other young man or young lady to have an opportunity to sit at that same desk or sit in that same office or to walk in the same shoes so that they can, guess what, do so much more than me. Because I'm not fooled. I know I'm not the smartest nor the hardest working African-American man or woman to ever walk the halls of that hospital. It's just that the Lord saw fit to bless me with that opportunity. And it's my responsibility to serve appropriately.
Yes, sir. So you have amassed a level of success that a lot of people won't. What's next for you?
You know, honestly, I don't know. Get up every day. You know, I get up every morning and I listen to my daily promise, which is typically a scripture and just a lesson about walking in faith, because with success comes stress. And with access also comes life's demons.
Right.
So, you know, one of my constant prayers is, Lord, guide me. You know, keep me humble in a way to know that I am not leading for me, but I'm leading in your name. Allow me to serve. You know, as I've shared, volunteers choose what they do. Servants go where they're needed and they do what's needed. So whatever's put before me is what I want to do. I want to ensure that we are providing the best patient care. But at the same time, on the various boards that I serve on, I want to ensure that whoever that customer is, that they are getting what they need. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, if I'm mentoring someone, I want to make sure that I'm paying it forward to the next generation. If I'm serving in my church, I'm giving, because anything the Lord gives me, that, you know, the Lord allows me to keep 90%. So it ain't about me giving the Lord 10, it's just him allowing me to keep 90. Yes, and then when I have extra, I need to remember that my extra or my plentiful is somebody's necessity. So I need to be trying to give and not just keep everything. So, you know, I don't know how much longer I'll work. I hope to work as long as I can. Even when I stop working formally, I do want to serve on boards. I want to be at community centers. I want to be giving. But to stop serving, I don't see that. I don't see that ever. I really don't.
Mm-hmm. And you said that you served on the board as a regent for Baylor University. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Explain to the people what a regent is, and you know what you do exactly as a regent.
Yeah. So, you know, the board of regents is basically like the board of directors. Every company, you know, the CEO at the end of the day, there's a group of individuals they report to. That group of board of directors, their main job is governance, ensuring that the organization is carrying out the mission. You know, its policies, its procedures, it's doing the thing that it should be doing. So for a university like Baylor University, it is there to educate. And what I love about Baylor University, because I believe the world needs a Baylor University, and I did not attend, is not only to educate, but to educate young men and women in a Christian environment, to allow them to grow in their vertical faith as well as their horizontal faith, and provide an academic atmosphere where they can grow intellectually and professionally and go out and be productive citizens. So for me, that Board of Regents, we are the governing body for all of Baylor University, those bears, and our one employee is the president of the school. Mm-hmm. And I say that because what many people confuse when they get on a board, they think it's their job to call folks and tell them, no. That's the president's job. The president runs the operations. Mm-hmm. The board is for governance and guidance, not for telling the president how to do their job every day or telling the vice presidents how to do their job. Mm-hmm. And I see it as an honor and a privilege because I'm not a Baylor alum, but to be a part of God's work is just, it's huge for me. It is, you know, it's a lot of work because education is its own industry. From NCAA athletics to business schools to nursing schools to academic performance to student life, but it's service.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, we were talking earlier about your childhood. You know, we want you to share what the president of Baylor All Saints childhood was like growing up in Stop 6.
Oh. Well, you know, a couple of things. So let me say this. I was probably, and I don't want to compare, but for my sake, I'm just going to say it. I think I was blessed with two of the best parents in the world. But one of the things I realized is on it. There were not a lot of young folks like me with two parents. My dad was awesome, and my dad still is awesome. My dad taught me a work ethic. But one of the realities of just, especially the time we grew up, there was a lot of drugs, there was a lot of gang violence. I don't know if I have enough fingers to count how many of the folks we grew up with either died or went to jail.
Right.
It was tough. I've had the situation where I pulled over for no reason and treated badly. Or you've had different teachers who had absolutely no faith that you could be more than what they thought you could be. Economically, we didn't always have the money to have new clothes.
Right.
But what we had was, we had God. And I know I keep saying it, but I say it because when I left home to go to college on August 9th of 1991, my mother wrote me a letter letting me know how proud they were of me, remembering the Lord, remembering the things they had taught me. And she said, as you begin to climb the ladder, know that God has so much for you. And I kept the letter. And 3 years later, I still had the letter. But the paper started turning colors. And so I laminated the letter. And I read that letter almost every year, 2 or 3 times a year. But I didn't tell my mother I even had the letter and showed it to her until 2021. And she was shocked. And I said, Mama, it's what got me through, because to your point, growing up in Stop 6, you didn't always see opportunity.
Right.
You felt like, okay, does anyone care? Does anyone even want me to make it? There were a couple of cats in the hood who were betting on how long it was going to take me to drop out of college. And a couple of times they almost won because it got hard.
Right.
But it's that experience then that I can truly say has made the difference now, because my endurance and my ability to drive, it didn't start today. It didn't start in college. It started in Stop 6. That wildcat fight, that wildcat spirit. When you got an issue, we used to be in practice, and coach say, if you see that opportunity, you see that interception, you call cat me. Well, in life, when stuff get hard, it's cat me, baby. We're gonna go get it. And if you think you can outwork me, if you think you can outdo me, no. Because what we've seen, you can't imagine. God got me through this, so I know God will get me through that. It may seem simple, but it's real, man.
Yes, sir.
It's real.
Yes, sir. He is the president of Baylor All Saints, and he's from Stop 6. So let's get into some of these questions.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's have some fun.
I had to put my readers on. Okay. What is your biggest fear?
My biggest fear is one day lying on my deathbed and all that God has blessed me with, be it intellectual knowledge, physical skill, opportunity, laying on my deathbed, knowing that God gave it to me, that my mother and my father poured it into me to use, but I didn't do it, so it dies with me. And that's my biggest fear. my other fear, honestly, is ever getting to the point where I read my own press.
Okay.
I don't ever want to get to a point where I think it's about me. Because it's not. Because if you read throughout the Bible, you look throughout history, when man begins to think that it is all about them, downfall is close. And I don't want to endure that wrath. So I just want to make sure I'm always focused on somebody else, on service, on giving. That's my biggest fear.
That's good stuff. Let's see. What college did you attend?
Yeah, so I've attended a few. Started out, playing football at then Southwest Texas.
Okay.
Now it's Texas State in San Marcos. Blew out my knee, so left there after 2 years, and I decided to go to Texas Women's University because I knew I wanted to go to grad school there. At the time, Texas Women's University had the largest occupational therapy program in America, and also take it back to when Coach Dipple gave me the program. That program for health professions was at Texas Women's.
Yes, sir.
Some may say, well, how do you go to Texas Women's? If you were in a healthcare field back then, a man could go there.
Okay.
So I went there, finished my bachelor's, got my first master's, and then I later on, after working 5 years, went back to the University of Texas at Arlington and got my second master's in business administration once I realized I wanted to be an administrator versus but instead of only doing clinical work, I was convinced by 2 nurses and some others to pursue administration.
So, when you were in college, did you ever have any setbacks or anything that would hinder you from your goal? And if so, what were they?
I had the biggest setback I think anybody can have. And the first piece I'm going to say is when my knee got torn up. I've been playing football since I was in Little League. Now, I didn't think I was good enough, and I knew I wasn't good enough to go to the league, but it was who I was. I was a football player. And so when I tore my knee up and I did rehab, and the doctor and my coach told me, your knee is not healing, and unfortunately, you'll probably never play football again, I was lost. And I'll admit, that next year, I was not a good college student. In fact, one semester, I set all my classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And I partied from Thursday night after class till Monday. And while I passed, my grades were not good. So I made the conscious decision to transfer and go to TWU, Texas Women's. And because I said I want to graduate in 4 years. And that meant the next 2 years were two of the toughest years of my life. And the setback was depression.
From football?
From football. I was depressed. Here I was, I'd grown up, we've talked about the upbringing. I finally go to college, which, by the way, no one in my family had ever even been to college. And then to lose my ability to play sports, I kind of sunk. So what did I do? I partied. But by the grace of God, He allowed me to wake up and get back on course. And that was a huge, huge setback. But I'm thankful for it now because mentally, I feel like it made me so much stronger.
Now, we were talking earlier, and you said when you transferred, when you switched universities, you did 21 semester hours.
Yep. Yeah. So because
let me frame this. Now, the average amount of hours is 12.
Yeah. To be a full-time student,
you take 12
hours.
And you did 21 hours.
Yes, sir.
In one semester.
Yes, sir.
What was that like?
It was rough, but I look back on it. It wasn't as rough as it probably seems because I knew I had failed myself. I knew that after I tore up my knee, I was not acting according to the young man that my daddy, George Williams, had raised. That's got to be the hardest working man I know. And he raised me to be a hardworking, honest man. So I went there, I left Texas State. I took classes at Tarrant County Northeast campus all summer. I took 17 hours that fall. And of course, I had to make, I couldn't remember the minimum, but I made like a 3.8 GPA that semester, because you have to get approval from the school to go over either 18 or 19 hours. I can't remember, it's been so long ago, but they approved it. I took 21 hours. I studied all the time, but I also had a job. Because remember, I gave up my scholarship to transfer.
Right.
So I was working nights. Some nights when I was stocking shelves at the Winn-Dixie from 10 p.m. to 6 in the morning, I would then walk home because I didn't have a car. Get chased by the same dog, sleep 2 hours, get up and go to class again. But I was hungry.
Yeah.
And again, like that hunger didn't start there. It started in Stop 6.
Yes, sir.
And it was tough. But I look back on it. It made me who I am today. It was hard though. I will not joke. There were times I cried. I tell my son, I have a 21-year-old son. I tell him to this day, he is what got me through.
Okay.
Many mornings rather, at 6 a.m. when I was walking home, because I would tell myself, just keep walking, just keep going. Your son won't have to live like this.
Yes, sir.
And, some may say, well, man, you spoil your kids. Well, you know what? That's fine. He's got a work ethic. My daughter's got a work ethic. But my son, because I said, God's going to bless me with a son first. And that's what I had. He was my motivation all the time. If not for me, but for my next generation. And so now I'm working not just for my next generation, but the generation after that and the generation after that. Because I want them to one day say, Granddaddy Charles did this. In fact, and I know you can ask, but I'll tell you, I made this purchase. I made a purchase 19 years ago, 2005. I wanted a globe in my office at home. Okay. And I looked and looked for it until I found, and I spent some money, and folks were like, man, why is this globe so important? I said, because it's a symbol. See, when you see the globe, you see all of the world. It is not about the globe, but it's about understanding that anything is possible. But the other piece about that globe is that globe will go to my son. And my goal is that he, in that same mindset, pass it to his son or his daughter.
All right.
So that we understand that regardless of today's circumstance, through application, hard work, and expect setbacks, you can do it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's good stuff. And I have a globe also. There it is right there.
That's right.
But what are some of your greatest accomplishments? Or one of your greatest accomplishments?
I've been blessed with a lot. When I was at JPS as Vice President of Operations, in my opinion, one of the greatest wins was redoing the $50 million contract to change out the Environmental Services Department from a company who had been providing it for years. And people go, well, why is that a big one? Because this was a contract company who was coming into Tarrant County, providing a contract service and employing over 200 employees and really cheating them out of healthcare benefits.
Okay.
Because when you look, they were paying them at a rate and then charging them so much for healthcare benefits that less than 10% of them were even participating in them. So they were taking money from the county hospital, and then the folks couldn't afford benefits, so they had to get on the county's healthcare plan. And so when I brought that to daylight, there were all county officials, they were like, whoa, we didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
And folks said, well, why is it a big? I said, because that's fighting for people who people normally don't fight for.
Okay.
Folks will go to bat for the doctors, but what about the environmental service worker? They're just as important as the doctor.
Mm-hmm.
They're the only folks that touch 100% of the hospital every day. Opening the critical care tower. Another accomplishment is when I moved to South Carolina as the president and CEO of Regional Medical Center, there was these two counties, Bamberg and Barnwell.
Okay.
And they didn't have a hospital. One of them lost a hospital in 2012. The other county lost it in 2016. There were elderly people having to drive over an hour just to see the doctor. And through working with some dollars that are allocated by Congressman Jim Clyburn in South Carolina, through some other local governments, on, I think it was April 1st, 2019, we were able to cut the ribbon on a 20,500 square foot emergency center with radiology and lab services right on the county line of those two hospitals. And it removed what was truly a healthcare desert. In fact, the county government association, all of the county commissioners of South Carolina recognized us, my hospital and myself, down in Hilton Head in South Carolina for eliminating a healthcare desert. I'll never forget it, because there were people who couldn't get benefits, man, because everybody ain't got a car. You say, oh, they can drive highway. Well, if you got a car, you can't drive.
Right.
You know, building clinics in this community on bus routes to ensure that everybody has access. So those are the things I consider to be, you know, great accomplishments. Giving, you know, supporting my wife when we were in Orangeburg, when she sat on a committee to open up the only homeless shelter in Orangeburg, South Carolina. So the least of these have a warm place to lay their head at night and get something to eat. You know, serving at my church to raise building funds to build a new sanctuary so people have a place to go worship. You know, those to me are huge accomplishments. Yeah, I've gotten awards and I've done that. That stuff doesn't last. That award gets dusty. But oh, what you do for somebody that impacts their life. You know, where they can feed their family, they can pay their bills, they can create hope for their children. Those things matter to me more than any other thing.
So, a little kid from Stop 6 spearheaded a healthcare facility in South Carolina. Where do you see yourself in the next 10 years?
I honestly don't know. You know, man, I don't know. I hope I'm in a place, if I'm not working, I hope to still be serving on various boards and providing care, be it education, be it at production companies, be it at the community center. I hope to be active in my church. I hope to be consulting. Do I want to be working probably like I am now, 60, 70, 80 hours a week? No, I don't want to be doing that in 10 years because I'm getting older. But I want to be active. I want to be serving. I've been blessed with so many opportunities. I've traveled all over America. I think there's only maybe 5, 6 states I haven't been in. I've walked through over 100 hospitals. I don't know what God has for me. And I used to be able to answer that question a lot straighter. But the reason why I can't, and I got to tell you this story, in what took me to South Carolina was God, because I did not originally want to go. I'd been asked to apply for the role, and me and my wife were not too sure about it. but it was when I was studying for a speaking engagement at church. It was our pastor and wife's anniversary. It was called, it was Walking in Confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Hebrew 11, 1 through 30. If you read that, that's the Hall of Fame of faith.
Okay.
And it was when I read that 8th verse that I paraphrased, and it said, and Abraham by faith obeyed God and went to a land that he would one day give. The only thing came to my mind was South Carolina. I'd only been there once, but I'd never been to Orangeburg. And it was at that moment in that battle, I was like, God, I don't want to go. And when I called the recruiting firm and said, why do you keep asking me, what's the deal? And they said, we got plenty of applicants, but we really think you might be the one. I try not to limit God because he's limitless. I try not to put too many plans in action, and say, well, I'm gonna do this. If it's God's will, I plan to do this. Because he'll show you who's in control when you say, this is what I'm gonna do. So we'll see.
Yeah. What I heard you talk about JPS, and I understand you spent some time at JPS, John Peter Smith Hospital.
That's right.
Talk about that.
Loved it. I worked there exactly 4.5 years. First day was March 31st, 2007. My last day was September 29th, 2011.
Mm-hmm.
I went there as the assistant administrator. Ended up being promoted to vice president of support service. When I left, I was the VP of operations. Part of the team that opened the critical care tower with the 232,000 square feet that it now houses the emergency department, the operating room, the ICU, and the 3 telemetry units. And I remember putting the final touches on that 865 space garage that everyone parks in. It was a great experience because I was born in JPS.
Yes, sir.
And
me too.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, they have an amazing CEO now, Dr. Duncan. And as I've said to her, and I say to many of the county commissioners, I will always support JPS because all of the hospitals have to work together because it's not about us. It's about the community.
Mm-hmm.
It's about serving the citizens of this community and ensuring that they have what they need. Because when people come to the hospital, it's not for a good reason. It's because they need care.
Mm-hmm.
So no, JPS is a great place. To me, it's one of the best hospitals in America.
Mm.
I really believe that.
Now, JPS used to get a bad rap back in the day. Why is that?
Well, sadly, I think
John Peter Smith Hospital.
I think a lot of it is because it is tax supported. People see it as it's free. And unfortunately, we tend not to value those things that we equate to free. But really, our tax dollars provide much of the care. But if you ask many policemen and others out there, they'll tell you. Because what I noticed is when I was there, whenever there was a real issue, they went to JPS. Because if you want your life saved, that level 1 trauma center, they're going to take care of you. Its teaching element is strong. Its history is strong. And it's got one of the oldest family practice residency programs, which is training doctors in America, one of the largest in America. They do a great job there. And I think they get a bad rap because, well, the ED wait is long. Well, the ED wait is long everywhere because the ED is not a place that you go first based on when you get there. You're treated based on the criticality or the acuity or the level of sickness.
Okay.
So if your elbow hurts and there's a guy that comes in after you with a knife in his chest, the knife in the chest is going back first.
You're going to have to wait a little bit.
You're going to have to wait. And that's where education is needed. People need to understand we need to do a better job of educating of the various places from urgent care to emergency care or having a primary care doctor so that you can take care of some of these needs prior to them being an emergency. And I'm no fool. I know everybody doesn't have insurance.
Right.
But we have to do a better job. When I say we, the community, we have to collectively work together to help one another. And that's that service piece.
When did you become president of Baylor All Saints?
July of 2023, last year. So it's been a year and a half. Prior to that, I was in Waco as the president there.
Mm-hmm. What was the reaction of your parents when you broke the news to them?
Well, it was joy because we were coming home. You know, I don't know if you know, my wife is from Fort Worth. She went to Southwest. And so when we moved all the way to South Carolina, we were 16 hours away.
Okay.
And that means we took their grandkids 16 hours away. So then we moved to Waco. We're a little bit closer, but we're still, you know, that's not something you can just go pop up. And I remember when we told them, it was on Father's Day. On my side of the family, we were sitting at Cotton Patch in Mansfield eating dinner that Sunday. And when I told them, my daddy was like, he just started clapping.
Right.
That really filled my heart because I know I'm blessed to still have both my parents. My wife is blessed to still have both their parents. And you know, you can make money, get titles, but there is nothing like family. So they were overjoyed, and I have just loved being in the same city with my parents so I can go see them when I want to.
What have you done for your parents that you always wanted to do and couldn't for, you know, maybe financial reasons?
Well, you know, there's some things, like there's some stuff they've done, and I don't really talk a lot about it because I know my dad is a man of pride, and I don't ever, you know, and I just, you know, there's something I can bless them with, I will, and we have, but I just, we're very low key on that, and I'll tell you why. My dad was real big on never speak to gifts.
Okay.
You do it out of the heart, and you just solid. And so anything I've done, I'll just do it, and we don't really talk about it.
Yes, sir.
We don't share it, because if you do it for that, why are you doing it? And what they do know also is it's always an open door. If they need something, I want to know. I don't want them to go without, and they won't. I mean, they work so hard, but I'm here. And that is what's critical to me, is ensuring that, I mean, it could be even healthcare. I want to know what they need. So I try to be respectful of that, because I don't ever want them to feel like they need, because they have pride as well.
Yes, sir.
We all do, but they know I stand ready with anything they need. So there's been times they've gone places and I'll go, hey, here. And it may be something for me, but I just walk away, because
Yes,
I don't want to, you know, I want to, hey, do your thing.
Understood. Let's switch gears for a minute.
No problem.
You played football in high school for Dunbar Wildcats, the mighty Dunbar Wildcats. 5700 Ramey, Fort Worth, Texas. Stop 6. What was that like?
It fulfilled the dream. When I was a little kid, I used to go to the games with my uncles and aunts. And in my head, all I used to hear is dun 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 dun, and I would just dream about one day being on the field at Clark Field, playing football. And you know, my school, my childhood idol, God rest his soul, it's just a good man. You remember Pat Davis graduated 2 years before us.
Yeah.
Pat and I played for the Golden Knights at the same time. And so I was always his backup. So when he played in high school, I knew I was 2 years behind him. I was like, I want to be the free safety as soon as Pat graduated. Right. So it fulfilled the dream. It was everything. I mean, thanks to, you know, my best man in my wedding, and to me will always be a dear friend. I even have my jersey from high school, Blaze. You know, Blaze is my dude. I mean, He's a good brother, and he's another brother that, and he may not even remember. He's always been a brother that's kept it real with me. Stuff that I didn't want to hear, he look over and say, whisper something, I go, and that stings, but I needed to hear it.
Right.
But no, it was a dream, brother, and I'll never forget it, ever forget it.
As far as you even going to Dunbar, talk a little bit about that. You know, the not only the football but the basketball. You know, Coach Hughes. You know, just talk a little bit about that.
So man, listen. If you go to, if you, man, if you have the opportunity to be an alum of Dunbar High School, man, you special. Because I don't believe there is a high school in the world with that type of tradition, that type of just, man, when you walk the halls of Dunbar, it's like, man, we Wildcats, man. I mean, it's just a feeling. I talk to my wife to this day, and I talk about how we sit in class and we, you know, act up. I'm in a bad way, talk about stuff. We talk about cats 10 years older than us. Everybody's connected, man.
Yeah.
It's like when you're at Dunbar, you are part of something so much bigger than you. Dunbar is not about 91, 61, 72, 2010. Dunbar is multi-generational. And you can travel, people know Dunbar. Right. And so I brag on it. I say, hey man, I'm a Dunbar grad. You know, I even thought if I ever been an NFL player, you know, and they have NFL players, their pictures, and they put their college, I probably would have put Dunbar on there instead of the college. Because it's just that huge in my mind. You know, Paul Lawrence Dunbar, man, you doing it.
Yes, sir.
And that's how I feel about my school.
Yes, sir. Now, we were talking earlier about the dads of Dunbar.
Oh yeah.
Talk, and you said that you wanted to you were gonna get more involved. Talk a little bit about, you know, what the program is and what your plans are, or what your ambition is as it relates to.
So I recently started learning about it, and when I heard about it before and meeting with some folks downtown, because I've been home a year and a half. So I'm meeting with various folks, just trying to learn as much as I can before I start asking even deeper questions and jumping involved, because we all have a poverty of time. And so my thing is to ask the question, so wherever I invest my time, I invest where the need is. I thought that it was just guys kids were actively going there and spending time talking to the young men, spending time, just kind of fostering that oversight. From what I'm hearing, and I still have more to learn, that some of the guys don't even have kids in school. They just care about Dunbar. They just care about the community. So in a meeting I had just yesterday, I said, great. So I just got the phone number to the young man that I've been told leads it. I look forward to reaching out to him. He's going to be getting a call from me soon to say, what can I do? You tell me where the need is. And what I can do and what I agree to, I want to be true to it. I don't want to tell you I'm going to show up and then, oh man, I can't. Because guess what? Kids expect you to be there when you say you're going to be there.
Right.
So that's a group. I also want to have an opportunity to talk, and I haven't reached out to him or her, but some of the school administration and say, what's the need? You know, can I fill every need? No. But if there is something I can do, I want to be there. If nothing else, for some child to say, it is possible. And I'm not saying because guess what? And it's possible and not be perfect, because I'm nowhere close. It's possible by making lots of mistakes, because I can. It's possible and not know everything, because I don't know everything. There's a whole bunch of stuff. I learn something every day. I tell my staff all the time, I'm many times probably the most uninformed person, but the difference is I'm willing to tell you, I don't know. Because I believe when you admit you don't know, you can then receive the knowledge so you're not incompetent or ignorant by the end of the day. So you grow daily. Exactly. But if you walk around acting like you know and you don't, you remain ignorant. You remain incompetent. Let your ego go. Ego doesn't do anything for you. Nothing.
Facts. I understand you have two children. Was it two children?
Yes, I got two babies. They are my heart.
Talk about them, man. Talk about what fatherhood and parenthood means to you.
It's my number 3 job. Because number 1 is being a child of God. Number 2, being the best husband I can be. And then 3, these 2 young people, my 21-year-old son and my 19-year-old daughter, they didn't ask to be here. I brought, between me and my wife, we were blessed to have them. And both my kids will tell you, because I repeated the same thing that my mother did for me. I wrote them a letter. Both of them will tell you before they left for college, one of the first questions was, where's your Bible? Take the Lord with you, keep the Lord with you, pray. Understand you're going to have hard times, you're going to fail some exams. But being an example to them of what a godly man, what a real man who makes mistakes, because they lived in the house with me. They know Daddy ain't perfect. Daddy messed up a lot. Daddy didn't come home and had a temper sometimes when he shouldn't. But that is my job. It blows my mind to hear men brag about, oh man, I don't know why these kids aren't grateful. I feed them every day. Well, you're supposed to feed them. You're supposed to put a roof over their head. You're supposed to teach them right from wrong. So I'm sorry, you ain't gonna always get a pat on the back. That's my job. God put man in charge, or own it. And I take that job seriously. I love on my kids, and the one thing my kids will tell you, I don't get off the phone with them. I don't leave their presence without telling them that I love them. I kiss my kids. I hug my kids. They are my babies. And they will always be my babies. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And that's how my parents are. To this day, my daddy, I know if something happened to me, he's in tears. He will hug me, he loves me. And we gotta get away. That's something, especially as men, getting away from the I can't hug, I can't love them. Why not? Everybody needs a hug. Everybody needs to be cared about. Everybody needs to know that there's somebody praying for them. There's somebody that will be crying at night if something were to happen to them, that they mean so much. And to me, I need my children to know that they are my world. And I do what I do for them.
Understood. Let's switch gears.
Yes, sir.
Let's talk about some of the problems that exist in our communities and our society today.
Oh, yeah.
We have a lot of our young boys are not educated and are ending up in prison. What is the solution?
It's a timely question. You think about some of the numbers right now that are being shared out of Fort Worth ISD. And not just Fort Worth ISD, one of the recent studies that talks about Fort Worth ISD and a number of other school districts, they looked at about 170,000 children. And only, 42% of them are literate and reading at a grade level that they should. I heard a person say at one of the events I was sitting in around this topic is, until we are literate, we can never truly be free. Because without literacy, you can't even read the street sign to make it to the place you're going. You can't read the application. You can't read the instructions on the side of a medicine bottle to get the health and wealth that you desire. In my mind, it starts with accepting that we have a problem. It starts with acknowledging, if you're the person with the problem, that yes, it may not feel good to admit that you don't know, but help is available. It's not just about somebody throwing money at it, but commitment to what is the solution. We didn't get here overnight. We're not going to fix it overnight. It's not just the teacher's fault. It's not the teacher's job. It's the teacher's job. It's the parent's job. It's the aunt, the uncle's job. It's the sister and brother. To me, every parent, and I know it's hard, when you work in one job, two jobs, or just one job with 80 hours a week, ask your kids to read to you. Hand anything, a book, to your child and ask them to read it to you. But what we get mad if the child is in the 6th and 7th grade, well, they've been making A's and B's, okay, but when did you check to make sure that the A's and B's, because at the end of the day, God holds us accountable for the child before he does the teacher. He gave them to us. I'm gonna give you an example. When you go to the store and you buy something and I give you change, you don't just take my word for it, do you?
Right.
You count your change.
Right.
So you sending your child to school, at what point you gonna check to make sure that they're learning what you are being told they're learning? And that to me is number one. But we also have to address, because we didn't get there overnight, we also have parents who are not literate. So that's where, and I applaud the work that TCC is doing with the adult high school that they just, like the one they just put in Stop Six.
Okay.
You know, we have to begin to say, hey, I am falling short and I need help. It's the only way you're gonna get it. And it's gotta be a consistent process. The hospital's gotta be involved, the city's gotta be involved, the school district's gotta be involved. We all have to say, how do we fix literacy? It's not just the superintendent, the school board, and the teacher. It ain't it. Now, yeah, they get the largest proportion of tax dollars, but it's everybody. Because we love to shame one another.
Right. That's
That's part of the reason. If you tell somebody that you lack, now you fill in, lack whatever, people want to make you feel bad. What about understanding someone's lack and instead of shaming them, loving them, caring for them, giving, saying, okay, how can I help? Not how can I hide you or how I can make you feel bad. Because we love to do that. We love to make somebody feel worse than us because we all got our issues. That's got to change. And until we change that, we're going to have this problem.
I heard you talk, well, we were talking earlier about law enforcement's involvement in the community. And you spoke about collaborating with, the head of local law enforcement. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. You know, when I was growing up in Fort Worth, and when I left Fort Worth, I was not a fan of law enforcement. Unfortunately, probably what happened to me happened to many young men in Southeast Fort Worth, where your interactions were not always positive. You felt like they were over-aggressive. But through some of my conversations, I'm hearing how things have changed. Not saying it's perfect. So I've had an opportunity to meet with some of the local police leaders to ask the question of, okay, this was my experience. How can I help, be it talking to officers or talking to young men or just any kind, you tell me how we can begin to build the bridge. Oh, I'm sorry, they're doing a lot better job now. I mean, just keeping crime down. The crime rates in Fort Worth are nothing like they were in the early 90s. And so I applaud the work of our mayor, our city council, our city manager, our police chief. Right. I really do. I applaud the work they're doing, but we can't stop there. And we also have to acknowledge that it's a two-way street. We have to I have to work on myself and go, okay, my past experiences does not determine my future interactions. I have to be open. Because if I allow all my past experiences to determine it, it's going to determine my nonverbal behavior. as well as my body language and everything else that can cause an issue. And now you're gonna have bad apples everywhere. And that's not just the police, that's also in our communities. But for those of us who are good, we have to do everything we can to build that bridge. So if law enforcement leadership asked me, Charles, can you come and talk to this group of policemen who may not be familiar with Stop 6? I need to be open to that because their view of Stop 6 may be something totally different than what they see in me. So then they know that, oh, we're different. But that's no different than me being willing to listen to them and understand why they think the way they think. Enculturation is strong. An example is 2 + 2 is 4, because you were taught that. And I don't care what I tell you, 2 + 2 is 4. Well, if you've been raised a certain way, that's what you believe. So until someone shows you something differently and spends the time to build a relationship with you, it will not change. And so we have to find a way to, yes, we have diversity, but we have to allow our diversity to be the foundation of growth and development and not continued separation.
Good stuff, man. This is the president of Baylor All Saints, who oversees 10+ facilities. And he was born and raised in Stop 6. So man, I appreciate you.
I appreciate you. It's an honor. It's a privilege. I just hope that he continues to allow me to be a part of his program. Because it's an honor and privilege to be on God's program, because every program is God's program. No matter what you do for a living, no matter how big you think it is or small it is, it's all the Lord's. And so when he allows me to wake up, stand on my own 2 feet, be in my right mind, I can't help but say thank you and keep it as real as I can. Not the ego keeping it real, but the heart keeping it real.
That's good stuff, man.
Thank you.
So we're gonna lighten it up just a little bit.
No problem.
Tupac or Scarface?
Oh man, Scarface. Down south, doesn't get any better. Telling the story with the rhythm.
Okay. Do you like Tupac?
Oh, I like Tupac, but I can't relate as much to Tupac. Listen, I've been to New York, I've been to those places, but that's not who I am.
Right.
Scarface represents that down south Texas vibe that you see in 3rd Ward, Stop 6, Acres Homes, all those places. I've walked that street.
Right.
And so when he tells that story, it's like, oh yeah, I remember that. I understand.
Who's your football team?
I'm a diehard Cowboy fan. And yes, they are trash. But I love them.
Right.
They are trash, but I love them.
Spoken like a true cowboy.
Oh yeah.
This is the Positive Postman's podcast. And once again, thank you to my brother, president of Baylor All Saints Hospital from Stop 6, Mr. Charles Williams. Appreciate you, Doc.
Appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
Much love.
Peace.
Peace.